music students of all ages. Well, here we are. We're live and direct. What's up, world? Woo, 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 woo. It's lesson 11. Please welcome a good friend of mine. Oh, let's see, which camera am I looking into today? Yes. Good friend of mine, a great musician, multi-instrumentalist, Charlie Garnett, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! The mic's on. Good. Let me go ahead and put this up. Yes, indeed. So welcome to lesson number 11 of free lessons for all ages and all levels, sponsored by NGO Radio Terra all the way down in Brazil. We got the Brazil-US connection. Much love to our friends streaming around the World Wide Web and tuning in to the YouTube channel, NGO Radio Terra's YouTube channel, that is. My name is Percussionist. This is lesson number 11, like I said, and this is the first trimester of 2025. So we're going to do 2 more of these, and I'm really excited about the developments that we're doing. Today is actually the first time that I've brought a special guest to the studio. So again, thanks for coming through. Today's lesson is all about bass, drums, connection. The pocket is the first subject matter at hand. And just, getting into some ideas about what we think pocket means to us and the difference between time and feel. There's aspects of playing between bass and drums that's kind of call and answer like. Then there's, how to have a good time and, what to do if you feel like you need to adjust the time. Ultimately, it's about feeling good and making sure that you provide a foundation for everybody else to sit on. And I personally believe that starts with the drums because nobody else can really get comfortable if the drums aren't feeling comfortable. But, Charlie can touch base on this for us, but everybody needs to have a good time, right? Like everybody needs to be responsible for the time. Thelonious Monk felt like that, and I feel like whatever Monk thought, I'm down with. But what do you think, real quick?
Yeah, I think the drums are, kind of get the most criticism for it, but I think every instrument is like super important in keeping time. If you can't, play by yourself with a metronome like in time and groove, then, you got to start there, and then you can play in the band or play with people too, but having that good solid time is really important for every instrument.
Absolutely. And so there's having good solid time with a click. We talked about playing with a click a lot this trimester. Demonstrated a couple different ways in which we can do that and why it's important. But then there's also that aspect of, well, what happens when the click's not on, and what happens when you have to be still demonstrating that you have great time without the click. Well, that has a lot to do with how good the other musicians are at playing time. And then, there's some type of meeting ground between how other people play time, like the bass player, and how the drummer plays time, and that creates this pocket. To me, that creates the sound, right? Like you and Kurt, another fantastic drummer who's in North Carolina, you and Kurt have your pocket. And that's because Kurt plays how he plays and you play how you play, and where you meet together creates this undeniable vibe. But it's a moving, breathing thing, I think. And, each drummer and bass player have that. So let's just play a little bit, and we'll explore the pocket and show people how we communicate musically. We're improvising grooves, of course, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary peoples. We are improvising everything we do today. So let's just kick off something.
Okay.
All right. So what we're doing right now is we're creating a vibe based on something that I have to stick to, and that's one thing that I want drummers to remember is that it's really important that as soon as you start, like the moment that you start, it's really important to lock into that exact idea. Shifting in any way can and probably will change how it feels, and even the subtlest shift in your body, the subtlest change in your hand can actually like determine a lot about what happens. So I think being consistent and not reaching for physically reaching for things like the symbol or I don't know, just being really, really comfortable and sticking exactly to the idea. I realized as soon as I started my hi-hat pulse that I was like, oh man, I wanted to do something else. But I realized that I was in the moment and we had to commit to it. So actually that's just a real-time example of what happens. Um, we're gonna keep on changing up the grooves a little bit and we're just gonna explore different time fields and out of that we'll continue talking about the experience. Start us off something for me. So as I'm listening to what he's doing, I'm realizing that I need to adjust my volume to make sure that he can hear himself and I can hear myself. So real quick, I just want to also state this that when we get into different time fields, we want to address the time as much as possible. I like to give space to the groove, so I wanted to demonstrate in that moment that when you take the hi-hat out, you can really, really give some space. But that would be like if you had like a full live band. So this time I want to add some more hi-hat in and demonstrate that I think that bass players like a really strong hi-hat or ride cymbal pulse. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for sure, like, just having that strong foundation, if it's constantly there, it kind of allows the other players to have a little more freedom.
Mhm.
So then they don't have to do that.
Exactly.
If one person does it, the other person can do something else.
Exactly.
Like vice versa.
That's so it's super important to remember that. That does create the dynamic, rhythmic, and dynamic variety that we're looking for. Cool. Let's do the same groove.
All right.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I want to state is that once it starts feeling really good, we can start taking some risks. So something happened and I went like that, and it sounded like a clap. And I realized that I could now widen the space between my quarter notes, and Charlie wouldn't necessarily think I was dragging. And that's a really important distinction because you can start to play with how far the spaces between notes are. And when you have great communication and camaraderie with musicians, we can start to get comfortable with it. So just be aware that the space between notes is described as how to keep really good natural time. If you keep those spaces consistent, then you're in there. Yes, indeed. So it's communication, it's eye contact, everything. You want most things to be super tight. We're always going for maximum tightness, but when you're going for musical sympathy, when you're being a sympathetic musician, then you do have room for things to kind of be a little wobbly. You do have room for things to not hit exactly together. Of course, that's not a end goal, right? It's just a means of mental thinking as you're playing to not just get hung up on everything not being perfect. And I can't speak for Charlie, but I can speak for myself in terms of being a perfectionist and wanting everything to be just right down the middle, just razor sharp precision. But everything can't always be like that, and you can't just get hung up on that and let the music go by. Um, so then there's the idea about like being too sympathetic, right? Like as a drummer, you can be too sympathetic. You can allow for people to push your time feel around too much. So I want to show demonstrate what it feels like to be a sympathetic drummer who's aware of the time and doing their best to keep things up tempo. All right. So I'm going to ask you to deliberately slow the time down as I try and barrel through. And we're just going to listen to what that sounds like. Again, this is an example of us taking our professional abilities out of context to deliberately show what dragging feels like. So go ahead. So we're going to rock. Slow it down hard. So what I'm doing is, if he slows down, I'm gonna try and throw as many upbeats in the thing. Now let's keep this. Now speed up drastically. So if he speeds up drastically, I know to add as many downbeats as possible to emphasize that side of the beat, right? So these are little things that, let's say that happens, people may not notice it. If it consistently happens and you're playing, other musicians will definitely notice it. But it is also one of those things that on the bandstand, the bass player, the guitar player may have had too many drinks. The saxophonist who you're in company may have stepped out for a smoke break and is really dragging behind the beat. We have to figure out a way to like listen and feel to the time field that's actually been counted off initially and maintain that while somebody does that. So that's different than asking somebody to just play a bass line behind the beat. So demonstrate what it feels like to not betray the beat, not leave me all by myself hanging out in the wind, but just put yourself back in the cut a little bit and show us what it feels like when the bass line is like right down the middle versus back in the cut.
Yeah.
If you can. Let's do. Should we swing something? Would it be easier to demonstrate with that, or something like? What's better for that? All right, cool. Let's do a shuffle. All right, so a two, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you putting in the center right now? All right, now bring it back just a little bit. I really like the way it feels when he brings it back that way, but also with the bass line being dead center, it also felt good. Right? And then there's the keeping the tempo while playing soft. So, like, once it gets going, you don't want to stop it, and I kind of feel like that's how you know when you're doing your job as a drummer and a bass player, and I think that it. You tell me what you think, but is it hard for if like as long as you can play? It shouldn't be hard for a bass player and a drummer to get along and like each other, right? Like it's hard to make it feel bad unless it feels bad.
Yeah, I mean, as long as y'all are, I mean, because you're working together, so as long as you're kind of agreeing on what you're doing, and sometimes there's some push and a pull where maybe the drummer wants to kind of push a little bit, and the bass kind of needs to recognize that too. But as long as y'all are understanding that that's happening, then I think that's good.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and it shouldn't be super hard
Yeah.
unless someone's really trying to
Assert
get their point across.
exactly.
Which can be cool, if it's like an interesting idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as long as you're aware.
as long as you're aware. That awareness is the whole point. So yeah, I think that I feel like I have been sometimes too sympathetic. I feel like I knew where the time was, but I decided for the sake of the moment to just like go with musicians, like go where they want to go as a drummer. And I just think that it's sort of like not the point of my job.
Yeah.
And that's been that, like, honestly, that's been a tough pill to swallow. It's like I should have been a singer, or like, not to say that singers can't have great time too. Everybody needs to have great time. It's just that, like, to be able to interpret time a certain way is really important. So um, let's we're gonna take the groove somewhere else and just establish some different rhythmic interests. So Manteca, the bass line from Manteca. Hmm. Hmm. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Yeah. yeah, it's a combination of sticking to your guns and really deciding that you're not going to push, or if you do push, that it's going to be very, very slight. And ultimately, time can move, and it does move. And when you listen to some of your favorite musicians, you do realize that in the heat of the moment, they sped up, or I find that rarely do musicians of any level slow down on major recordings, but I've heard a lot of great musicians sometimes speed up. And that's not something to tell young musicians to give themselves latitude on not having great time for, but it's definitely something to be kinder to yourself when it comes to realizing that the time had moved. Have high standards for yourself. Have high standards for yourself, and practice, so that it doesn't. But also remember that when there is no click, it is about the agreement between the bass player and the drummer to establish what the tempo is. And I think that having a bass player that will tell you the truth musically or verbally about what's going on, if need be. Most musicians, I find, don't always say anything to each other, and words aren't really used on bandstand because it's a forum of sonic ideas mostly. However, it's totally cool to be like, "Hey, yo," or something. Get someone's attention. Communication is key. Eye contact is key. Being able to make sure that you can see your bass player and see your drummer is really, really important. I mean, I find that it's important to especially see the band leader too, because that's where your cues are coming from. So make sure that's happening. But yeah, let's take it home. Let's see, what time is it right now? So we got 2 minutes. Let's take it home with another little groove. Kick off something. And so this is just to show you guys that, like, when the musical idea starts from another instrumentalist, it's really important that you find the best part. This is when improvising, that you find the best part to accompany them. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging with us. This has been lesson number 11 for the first trimester in 2025 with a special guest, Charlie Garnett, here on bass. Please thank him very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for hanging with us, whoever is tapped in with us right now. Comment in the chat if you guys enjoyed this lesson. We can do more of these live in-person sessions with other musicians. And next week is the final lesson. So I'm here Wednesdays at 4 p.m. with NGO Radio Terra's free lessons for all ages and all levels. Thanks so much for being with us today. We were talking about the relationship between bass and drums and pocket. Hopefully we got to everything, but this is a very vast topic and we could spend hours just playing and making grooves. So we all got to go. Have a great day. Peace and blessings, world. Later. Charlie Garnett.